Hey guys, I just wanted to give you a quick update about my abattoire of AoZ Penshot Rogue with the Andariel poison version. So I finally have cleared the tier 14 recently and decided to make an update video for this rogue build and just tell you what changes I did to this build and what have inspired me to do that. So there have been some Chinese players recently that were able to clear, I believe, tier 17 or 18 with Rogue, with Penshot Rogue. I'm not exactly sure if that's true, but that's what I heard. And the Chinese players have figured out some new innovations kind of for this archetype. So there are two skills that I switched for this build. So the first skill is I replaced Puncture with another basic skill. So now we are playing with Blade Shift. Blade Shift has several advantages over Puncture. So first of all, it has a very nice unique effect. So you get 20% increased movement speed and you are allowed to freely move through enemies. So this is basically the same as this Ghost Walker aspect. I'm not sure if it's called like that, but so it's like this mobility aspect you can put on boots, which gives you 25% movement speed and also allow you to freely move for enemies so you do not get stuck. So that's very good for mobility and survivability. And also this is a cutthroat skill, and so this allows us to keep up our passive close quarters combat more easily. Before that we were reliant on casting Shadow Step as our only source of cutthroat skill to get this huge damage bonus from close quarters combat, and now we can just use this basic skill to also get this bonus up all the time. And also I want to kind of rewind here. This is also quite amazing. The second skill we changed is we are now playing with Death Trap, and you can see here what Death Trap does is it pulls enemies together in a very small area, and then you saw this little lag. So every time you pull up so many enemies together, you will get this lag, but don't worry, you just need to keep attacking and the lag will go away, and what then will happen is that enemies will immediately die, because we are dealing much more damage with Penshot if we pull them up together with this Death Trap. So this is a huge damage boost, especially for large groups with elites. This can kill elite packs within a few seconds. So this is a huge update to this Penshot build. Try out Death Trap and pull big groups of elites and regular mobs together, and you will see how quickly they will melt and just basically die to your poison imbuement. So yeah, these are the two additions that we did to this build. Some players are also playing with cold traps. They also can freeze enemies, so you chill them and after 4 or 5 seconds they get frozen and you deal more damage to enemies affected by your cold traps. But for my build, since I'm playing with Frostburn, I don't need cold traps for freezing enemies, so I rather play with Shadow Step, since this gives me a little bit more mobility and utility skill. But if you would like to play with Fist of Fate instead of Frostburn, so some people play with Fist of Fate together with Cold Traps, then this combination is also pretty good to freeze enemies and benefit from this freezing bonus you get. So we want to freeze enemies for survivability, but also because we get a huge damage bonus. So Frigid Finesse in my passive skill tree, like the passive skill Frigid Finesse, gives me 60% multiplicative damage to frozen enemies, so this is pretty huge. But for now I stick to Frostburn because I just like it more and I feel like it's worth it to freeze enemies as quickly as possible. Also because Poison Imbuement, for example, is snapshotting this freezing effect. So if we freeze enemies in the first second, so with our first attack basically, then all the following additional poison ticks, so for example I will have poison ticks over 9 seconds because I play with the tracker glyph, and all of these poison ticks will deal damage based on the freezing, on the frozen effect that the enemies had in the beginning. So this way I will deal much more damage over a long period of time. So I think that's why Frostburn is still worth it and better than Fist of Fate, but maybe after some testing we could find out that Fist of Fate is a bit better than Frostburn, and then you could also play with cold traps for also getting this freezing effect on your enemies after some time. So yeah, but this is the build for now. It works pretty good for me. You can see here I don't even get the best map, so usually most of the rogue players are waiting for the perfect spider skeleton map to push. Here I have this a bit annoying enemies here with a lot of fire enchantments and fire attacks and stuff like that. So no spiders, no skeletons. And still I was able to clear this tier 14, and I'm pretty sure that I will also clear a tier 15 soon. I already had some attempts on that tier and it went pretty good. It's just a little bit dependent on the luck, how much luck you had during the map, what kind of shrines, and especially the biggest factor for me is if I'm able to quickly separate the Bloodseekers, so if I'm able to separate one Bloodseekers in the beginning pretty fast, so then I can just start killing it. But yeah, I can also go a bit further here and just show you the last fight with the Bloodseekers. So here you can see right before the Bloodseeker spawns, I will just move forward a bit and then switch my helmet. So I switch my Andariels for Shaco and then just swap one passive skill in my skill tree. And then I just hope to get one Bloodseeker here so I can separate them. And then, yeah, this guy will follow me and I can 101 him. And my rapid fire together with my poison imbuement and hopefully my bursting venoms aspect is just enough to kill this Bloodseekers here. But you can see sometimes I don't get lucky and don't proc bursting venoms, then it just takes much longer. So this is also a little bit luck dependent if you are able to proc your bursting venoms aspect or not. But yeah, that's nothing you can do here. And also I can mention what sometimes will happen is that the Bloodseekers will have poison, how it's called, poison enchantment, I think. They're poison enchanted. And if this is the case, you need to switch back to your Andariel's Visage. The reason is I have pretty low poison resistance without my Andariel's Visage, because Andariel's Visage gives you 90% poison resistance. So I have no need to invest any further poison resists in my other gear. But for that reason, if one Bloodseeker will have poison enchantment, you can't play with your Shaco because you will just die to this poison. So then you need to switch back to Andariel's, and after you kill the Bloodseeker with poison enchantment, you can just switch back to your Harlequin Crest Shaco, if you have one. So yeah, little tip I can give you here. And yeah, usually you just, how I like to approach them is by casting Shadow Step on the Bloodseekers. Shadow Step will also stun them. Then I hope that I will immediately freeze them and proc my bursting venoms. And yeah, you can see the poison does basically the rest of it and finishes the Bloodseekers. So yeah, here I finished my tier 14. So yeah, now I want to quickly show you the changes I made to the gear and skills in Paragon. So I will not go over every item here since I already made a guide for this rogue. I just want to highlight some changes. So the first change I already mentioned is I replaced X-File Ring, so X-File Ring is not needed in the higher tiers, as at least this is my opinion so far. So I replaced X-File with a ring, which gives me also additional maximum life, so it's also a little bit better for survivability. And on this ring you can either put a rapid aspect, so for additional basic skill attack speed, or you could exploit a new bug that some people recently discovered. So there's a bug which allows you to snapshot an aspect. So how this works is very simple. You apply your crossbow with the desired aspect you want to have on your ring. So on my ring I want to play with this elements aspect. So I also put the highest possible elements aspect I have on this crossbow. So this would give me 60% increased damage to poison, for example, so more damage to poison element. And so what I do is when I enter the dungeon, so you need to enter the dungeon first, and then you just equip this crossbow with this aspect, and then put the ring with the same aspect in your inventory. And then you just replace your crossbow with your regular crossbow, so I want to play with corruption. And then the ring, which here has only 20% increased damage, will still have 60% increased damage due to this bug. So we kind of snapshotted the 60% aspect power to this ring. So that's why I play with this elements aspect on the ring. And yeah, you can do it as well if you want to exploit this bug. So this is one change I made. Then on the boots, we are not playing with Ghostwalker anymore. So like I mentioned, Blade Shift has a very similar effect. So we can put another aspect on it. And for now I have this Exploiters aspect. So I deal 40% increased damage to unstoppable enemies. I'm still not sure if this is the best choice. Maybe you could also put on this Noxious Ice aspect, and then you would deal 30% additional poison damage to frozen enemies. So since I'm playing with Frostburn and enemies are frozen all the time basically, maybe it's better to play with Noxious Ice, but yeah, that's something I need to further test and I can't say right now. So right now I have this Exploiters on, and it's also kind of good, I think. So I think actually that's it for the gear. These are the major changes. I also want to highlight, since I'm not playing with Doombringer, so by the way, this build is still, I think, the best rogue build for not having a Doombringer. So if you have a Andariel's Visage, but not a Doombringer, then this build is very good, and we try to compensate as much for this effective health loss that we have because we do not have a Doombringer. So for that reason I don't play with Disobedience, but instead I'm playing with Umbers on my neck and with Might on my chest. So I just use an elixir, and this way I also reach my armor cap of over 13k armor. So I think with the normal elixir it's about 13.4, and with the large elixir, which gives 900 armor, I go up to 14k armor. So I don't need a Disobedience, and instead of Disobedience I can play Might for additional 20% damage reduction, and this way I'm able to kind of compensate for the lack of Doombringer. And yeah, this is my defensive setup for this build. Then I also replaced the Cursed Touch with Metamorphosis. So with this build, we are not relying on Shadow Step as our cutthroat skill or as our CC breaker. So Metamorphosis makes more sense in this kind of build, and it's also quite good with Death Trap. The enemies get pulled together, and then you can just evade through the enemies, and they will also be afflicted with Vampiric Curse and get vulnerable proc or status. So Metamorphosis is also kind of good. It's much better for survivability, since we can't get CC'd basically, and we also more often proc our T-Bot's Will damage bonus. So yeah, I changed Metamorphosis I replaced it for a Cursed Touch. And now let's take a look at the skills. So this is the skill I changed before I fight the Bloodseekers. So usually we want to play with mixed poison imbuement, but when I fight the Bloodseekers I just change it to blended poison imbuement. And the rest of the skills, so instead of Puncture I'm playing with Blade Shift, as I mentioned. Then we want to play with Advanced Penetrating Shot. I'm not sure if I had this Improved Penetrating Shot before, but Advanced is better because we just don't care about crit chance actually. Poison imbuement does not scale with critical strikes, so Advanced Shot is better. I'm also playing with Methodical Shadow Step now, so I can stun Bloodseekers, for example, or Elites. And since I'm not reliant on Shadow Step anymore because of Blade Shift, it's a bit better to have this stun effect. Then 1 point in the Dark Shroud is enough. We take all of these damage bonuses. Here nothing changed as well. Here I put 2 points into Innovation. This is because I removed the Cunning Stratagem legendary node from my Paragon board, so this way I will proc less of my lucky hit effects and I need a little bit more resources, so I think 2 points in innovation is kind of good to always have nearly full resources. And also we play with Prime Death Trap now, so very good. I can recommend you to play with Death Trap, and we don't need Supreme Death Trap because in Abattoir of Zir enemies just don't die as quickly. And obviously close quarters combat as always. So yeah, this is the skill tree, and also some changes to the Paragon board. So now I'm playing with the control glyph in my starting Paragon board. Here we don't get this maximum amount of intelligence nodes for maximum damage, but the big advantage here is that we have a very efficient pathing, so we don't need to spend too many Paragon points to reach 39 intelligence. And for this setup I think it's more important to have this efficient Paragon point spending than to have maximum amount of intelligence nodes. So that's why I put it on the starting board. Here in the cheap shot board we still have our Tears of Blood glyph. Here I also play with this rare node here because I need additional armor in the setup to reach my armor cap without disobedience when I use an elixir. So yeah, I took this armor node here. Then, like I mentioned, I don't play with Cunning Strategy legendary node anymore, but instead I want to have a further glyph. So here I play with Diminish. The reason for Diminish is I want to have further armor from this armor node here. So again, to reach my armor cap, this is very important. And Diminish is also good for damage reduction, since we are not playing with Doombringer, we need to compensate for some damage reduction. As always, I have this Tricks of the Trade board, and here I'm playing with Versatility, also a new glyph. This will increase my poison imbuement damage by 15%. And Efficacy is now in this No Witness board, so here I have a very efficient glyph pathing again, with getting all of this extra bonuses for maximum life. And I also replaced this Exploit Weakness legendary node, so we are not playing with any legendary nodes besides Cheap Shot, and instead I also put a new glyph in. And here, like mentioned, I'm playing with the Tracker glyph now. So Tracker glyph is very good for two reasons. First of all, it's a very good glyph by its own. We increase our poisoning effects by 33%. So what this basically means is that enemies will die 33% faster with our poison, because we can just leave them. So we don't need to kill them completely, but we leave them as soon as we realize they will die to our poison. So this will save us a lot of time, and time is basically the most crucial factor in Abattoir of Zir. So for that reason alone, Tracker glyph is probably one of the best offensive glyphs you can use right now. And the second reason is that it might be also bugged additionally and deal much more damage than it should, but we don't have any testing so far. It's just something that some other streamers, also like Wuju, think that it might be bugged and deals more damage than it should. So for these two reasons, this glyph is very good. So yeah, these were the changes that I can recommend you doing for this build. It's a very budget-friendly build. You only need Andariel's Visage basically, and then everything should work. So I hope you guys like this build. I don't know how much interest you still have in this kind of content. I think Abattoir of Zir is not very popular for the majority of the player base right now. So yeah, we will see, but I think I will update you with some further videos if I reach some higher tiers. So my goal is to at least reach Abattoir tier 15 and maybe push to 16 or 17 if it's possible. And I will update you guys with that. So have a nice day until there, and bye bye.